So in wood, you guys, I've been watching videos of occasion of sawmills and stuff, and you see a lot of Asian sawmills. Do they cut that all to millimeters as opposed to inches when they're doing these days? And when you get wood from overseas or any rainforest wood that you pull it in, do they is because I
I
see it
believe,
often
I,
listed.
I believe yes.
Yeah, actually, most of the plywood here in Canada is metric as well. You get a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. It's not 3/4 inch. It's whatever the metric equivalent is. And yeah, that's always been a challenge lately. And I
Down
know
in Groff,
In Australia, all the lumber yards, every lumber yard I went into down there, all the wood was metric. It was interesting.
at Groff and Groff, they all offer it all in inches, but if you actually measure the exotics, they measure differently from the U.S. produced timber because they are actually metric sizes that they just convert and sell as inch sizes.
Well, a metric foot over here is 11 and 13/16 of an inch, but everything else is in 20, 30 millimeters.
I wish for the metric hour. That's what I'm waiting for. It'll have 100 minutes in
Yes, the Europeans have got a lot to answer for.
it.
So it is rather ironic that the Europeans, and even though the imperial system is Europeans, it's the Americans that are the last ones to convert the SI units.
About 3 months ago, when I was doing a write-up for the club magazine, if I was putting down something as a measurement, I had to put imperial and metric. Otherwise, a couple of so-called good people used to moan.
We
Yeah,
always did that editorially for the whole last 20, 30 years. And then most of the publications, if they have any expectation of selling, even in US and Canada, they give all dimensions in both.
Yeah,
Mr.
luckily I
Richard
can stop
Raffin,
that now.
Raffin almost always talks about both metric and inches when he's talking about dimensions of tenons and things like that.
Well, he's in Australia, so he gets it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think he converts it in his head. He does it so often. I think he just knows.
sure. That's where you get to. You get to where you do with any of those things.
Yeah.
I can still see everything in picas and points from the printing trade.
oh yeah, I've been there.
Morning, Jim, John, from over here.
I have to say also to make things more interesting, our 3/4 inch plywood is like 23-30 seconds now. It's
Yeah.
just a smidgen under. It
Yeah, well,
doesn't fit anything.
everything's a smidgen under. Look at the size of your pound of coffee,
Yeah, yeah.
Lord.
But it does a job when you route a 3/4 inch slot and stick that thing in there.
Oops.
You got to use some thick glue.
Well, it's also an opportunity for the router bit makers to make exact size router bits to match, which of course they do.
You got it. Yep.
But even there, you've got to be careful. You can get a 1/4 inch shaft or you can get a 6 mil shaft.
Yeah.
You need to change the collet.
Yeah, and then there's USB
Yeah.
and spindles, spindle tapers.
And the
Oh,
older you
my.
get, the less you want to keep on buying new stuff to match what you've got because they've changed it.
Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour number 260 for July the 3rd, 2025. My name's John Kelsey. I'm your moderator today. I will be putting my email and a subscribe key on this slide for those of you who stumble into it on video. Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour is free. Email me here to get on the invite list and click over here to subscribe to my channel. We're getting several hundred views for most of these things right now, and our program from a couple of weeks ago, and when we memorialized our old friend David Ellsworth, is up heading for 3,000 views, which for us in this field is a lot. And I have no idea what Mike Peace gets, probably 6 million, but anyway, there you go. I see a few hands, and I love that Duxbury's here, and I see that Ziegler's here with some stuff. Since I've got the mic, I'm going to hold it for a minute. Let me just get to the view I like to use, which is the multi-speaker. Yeah. And then I'm just going to give you a quick catch up and ask a couple of questions that'll lead into a discussion, I think. So here's where I am with magnet boxes. I'm making these. This one is six pairs of magnets with 12 decorative dots. So the 6 and 6, that's just how I made it. The magnets don't show inside the box, but they do show inside the lid, and outside the lid, and I'm fine with that as a decorative detail. And then here's the next one I made. I made this one as a wedding present, and this is Cocobolo. And the advantage of allowing the magnets to be decorative is you don't need any kind of hoo-ha to hide them, and you don't need a bead here. This can be a clean lift. This one, the figure does line up, although it'll all darken in so you can't see it anyway. It's 8 pairs, and that's the answer to a question somebody put the other week. It'll snap down no matter what. You put it down, it snaps shut. And I'm very happy with this box. It's going to be a wedding present for some old friends. So that's where I am on the boxes. I didn't do club news. I'll do club news in a minute. Duxbury, I was editing the video, and you were talking about shop accidents mostly coming from people falling down. I remember being in the shop at RISD one day visiting Frid, and some moron had left a whole bunch of 1-inch cubes of wood littered on the floor near the table saw, and Frid shut the power off to the whole damn shop and hauled the whole class in there and explained why you wouldn't want to do that ever again, because people would catch their foot on it, trip, and fall. So
Yeah.
he knew the same thing you knew about that. Yeah, that's just a double verification of that point.
Yeah.
And the only times I've ever had a fall or a near fall in the shop is catching my foot on a cord. So a cord or a hose. Or on an extended wheeled platform. I'm sorry about the background noises. I'm out on my deck, actually. I'll turn the background off in a minute. That was an airplane going over, low flying. We're not too far from a small airport. Before I go to the hens, and I'm going to reintroduce another topic, club news, anybody?
Lancaster we had our annual picnic last night. We were going to have it Tuesday night, but fortunately we postponed it because Monday night and Tuesday night were like deluges of rain. Some people's basements got flooded out. So we moved it to last night. Not too many people, but the people that did show up had a good time. So all in all, it was good. It just wasn't as well attended as usual. And we had the Frisbee toss, if you will, the ring toss. Alan Miller won that. And,
Good for him.
Yeah. And then our
Is
open
Alan
shop.
on this morning? Alan's
What's
not
that?
here. I'm just looking to see if Alan's here this morning. I don't see him on
No,
screen.
I don't see him, but he had a really nice thin ring. And then and then Mike Cooterback made some nice handled bowls with lids, and that was his Frisbee. The lid was his Frisbee, so he tossed his lid about 20 feet in front of him. Didn't win, but it was amusing. And open shop is a week from Saturday on the 12th.
The 12th, okay.
Yep.
Nittany Valley, you guys? Any news? What's up?
We don't meet over the summer, so
Okay.
things are quiet.
All quiet in Happy Valley.
Yep.
Okay. Before I go to the hands, I do want to put a question to you all, because I'm now faced with needing to make an index wheel, since my lathe does 24 holes, and I now want to do 10 so I can make a magnet-driven counter. So I'm wondering what the right number of holes is, 120 or 60. And I'm wondering whether plywood is sturdy enough, or I'm going to have to go get a big piece of lucite. And any other pertinent advice you might have. I'm working on a standard size Scout with a 14-inch swing. Huh.
Hey, John, what about that material that Kaufman's tosses out occasionally, the cutouts for sinks?
You're right. That would be the perfect stuff.
I have a piece someplace in my shop. If you'd like, I'll bring it over.
I'll talk to you about it after the meeting.
Okay.
Isn't that something that's easier to buy?
I don't know.
Oh, John Lucas. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you, John.
okay, that would help me. Yeah.
Because John Lucas I know he's posted several times sources on the WOW site or on the AAW forum. There's a company in the States that makes them because that'd drive you crazy. Making them
Actually,
not accurately.
a real simple way for making indexes, and especially if you're wanting to make ones for a specific index, is just get a piece of 1/8 inch thick hardboard, and then cut a circle on it, and then use a program like PowerPoint or whatever, and just put a pie chart on it with the number of spaces that you want, and then you just drill on the lines, and it's cheap. It's really cheap and it's simple. And if you're making something with, say, like you say, 10 index points, you only have one set of holes. If you make a whole bunch where you got a whole bunch of different holes for a whole bunch of different indexes, the way I would do it, I'd end up using the wrong hole on one and screw the whole damn thing up. So if you
you'd
make
a
one
10
index thing,
You make a 10-hole ring and an 8-hole ring. You'd do it that way, wouldn't you?
yeah, exactly. And that way it makes it easy, and it's cheap. Like it's just a piece of fiberboard. It's 8 inch thick. You put it in on, you bore a hole the size of your spindle, and it just jams on with your chuck. And yeah,
Okay, I see. That confirms the direction I'm tending to think of it as well. I don't want to do 120 holes, but
yeah,
I know I need 8, 6, 8, and 10. You know, and I can get everything except 10 on the lathe itself. So maybe I'll just make
yeah,
a 10-hole disc and I'm done.
yeah. And then it's simple. It takes the brain work out of it. Every time you put that one on, you know that you're never going to
Yeah.
make a mistake because you only got one set of holes to do it.
Yeah.
Bert, when you do that, Bert, though, do you have a problem with the holes eventually getting too big because of wear, and you have to replace it periodically if you're using, or is the board hard enough that you're talking about to keep that to a minimum?
I think you could probably make 1,000 things with it before the hole wears out, because it
Yeah.
depends on how hard you're using it. But if you size the hole, it's not a high wear item. I mean, you just, yeah, to me, I wouldn't think you'd have to worry about it. And it's so cheap that if it did, then
Yeah.
yeah, just make another one. But it's
Yeah, I wouldn't
hardboard
see any
is
issue.
actually really, really hard. It's hard. It's better than raw wood, because raw wood moves and the hardboard
Yeah.
doesn't seem to. So,
Sure.
and plywood,
I can,
same thing.
Another
I can see.
idea is once you make that, put some finish on it of some
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
to strengthen it and make it a little more durable.
And also to ease the travel of the pin in and out of the hole. Presumably you want a snug fit there. I was thinking of the drill rod for that, or else boxwood. It would be nice if it was boxwood. So,
I'd like
I'm
to add
actually-
in on that. He's talking about printing a pattern to drill your holes. That sounds like a great idea to me. However many holes you print on your pattern,
Yeah.
you drill on that spot and you got it. It's not
Yeah, I
laying
think
out
that is a
and
good idea. Yeah,
screwing up your layout. Your printout's going to be accurate.
yeah, I agree with that.
I used to think that, but I made some wooden gears.
Yeah.
And copy machines, when they print, especially the kind that enlarge and retract or whatever, don't always make it perfectly round. If you're going to make gears or something that actually has to fit and you want perfectly round, once you printed that out, find the center and swing an arc. You use the same degrees, but swing an arc. Because if you make two gears that are egg-shaped, they work for a couple minutes and all of a sudden, wham, you can't get the damn things. I don't use holes in I have the same 1/8 inch masonite, and I have slots cut in the end of it, and I have an arm with a stainless steel leaf that slides into that slot.
Mhm.
And that locks it right there.
Well, that's the other question, is a cross slide that gives known increments in moving a drill, for example, across the face of the workpiece. So I'm working on that as well, but I know I could do the same with the Dux chuck and move the workpiece relative to the drill. But I would rather leave the workpiece on center and move the drill relative to that. I think I'm going to have a better chance of survival if I do that. So I'm not going down the Dux chuck rabbit hole just yet.
No.
So while I'm looking at you, Duxbury, why don't you show us what you'd like to show us today?
Okay, well, I start out with, where am I?
You're right, center
I
on.
started out making three-sided bowls.
Yeah.
And
those are on your Dux chuck, I bet.
yeah, this is turned on 4 centers. I lay it out first, so I know what I'm doing usually. And then Rita textures the front of it with her cup burr, and then she paints every other, I don't know, the dots every now and then.
So the white is painted on after turning, so you don't turn to a clean edge, you paint to a little divot, I guess, a little valley.
Well, she turns, this is turned to the edge. She dots right to the edge. These are that cup burr.
Yeah. Wow, that's very nice.
And
that passes
I don't know why.
The test, I bet, too.
What?
Passes the guacamole test.
Yeah.
People like to feel
this is a 4. This would be 5 centers. And the more centers you do, the less pronounced it gets. You know, it starts smoothing out, so it's harder to show that exactly. But these are exactly, I forget what the degrees are, 42 degrees or something. But anyway, if one side, can't get it, if one side is lower or has a divot in it, you'll see a dip in this line. So they've got to be perfectly flat.
Huh. And so what tool are you using on on each of those facets?
That's probably 1/2-inch spindle gouge.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You could turn, hey, anybody gets bored turning wood. You said there's a lot of new wood turners. Anybody gets bored wood turning, you've got to have something wrong with them. There's so damn much you could do. You also mentioned that pieces parts. You want to see some pieces parts? I got a kaleidoscope that's
Oh yeah, show it.
knocked down. Okay, this is you said you might want to see one of these. This is a kaleidoscope I make, and you look in this end, and you turn this end. There's an object box in here. I don't know if you can see the stuff in there.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you can.
Wow. That's terrific.
Anyway, you said that at the right time. I happen to have one knocked down. This is my own design. Oh.
So move a little more toward your pen. Flat. Stay on the desktop. Stay on the desk. Just move. Yeah.
Down here.
Now you're better. We see what you got in your hand.
Okay. I see.
A little closer to the mouse, even more. There you go.
This is just been done. Usually a kaleidoscope, you take a block of wood that's square and turn it around, and you drill a hole through here. And you end up with a round hole and a triangular mirror, and it flops around and everything. I make this out of 3 pieces of wood. In fact, this is how it's made. There's 3 pieces of wood glued together. And when you turn it around, you've got a triangle in the middle. So the mirrors fit right in here.
And what are we using for mirror?
I have that too. These are first surface. This is taped up. These are first surface mirror. In fact, if I open this up, you could probably see through this. This is first surface mirror. The silver's on the top of the glass. You can't use a regular mirror because you get the green from the glass and you get a reflection off the top of the glass. You can see through here.
So do you acquire that as a set, or do you make that up from flat, or what do you do there?
I make everything.
Okay, so you buy this material in a sheet or a
in a
square?
sheet. Yes,
Okay, and is it plastic or glass?
glass.
Yep.
It's real hard glass. And this now fits in here. See, that's the mirror goes down in there and I see like that.
And it looks like it's got a bit of play in there.
Yes, it does. And you have to have that because wood moves and mirror doesn't. But anyway, and this is an object box. It fits on there on the end like this. So it turns.
And what holds it on there in action?
You know, I could show that too.
I bet
I
you will.
have. This is, there's screws, 3 screws in the end of here with washers. And on the end of here, in here, there's a slot. And this fits into that slot. Yeah, I don't have any lights in there. Anyway, the mirror, that washer fits into this slot in the middle of here.
Does the slot have 1 entry point or 3 entry points?
1 entry point. You rotate this around. I'd be damned, I can't get any light in there. You rotate this around and put in the screws one at a time. So that so see, these are spotted to drill.
Yeah.
And this has one section is cut out for the screw to be put in right there.
So you can adjust the tension of it by that with that as well, I bet, a little bit. Anyway.
Yes, yes. Well, the length of this tenon and the length of that recess or before that recess is critical. That has to be right on. And from there, this is an object box. This is made out of PVC coupling. That's light fixture lens out of a lay-in ceiling. I turn this and cut it all on the lathe. There's the objects, they're glass. These are floating in oil.
Floating in oil? You mean that's a sealed box?
Yes, glycerin oil. Yeah, there's a hole drilled in the end here. And it's filled with 5-minute epoxy.
It's like a psychedelic light show from 1967.
It kind of, yeah, you can. Anyway, that fits in this object box, the rotating part that drops in here. And then I got a ring, here it is here. This is a retaining ring. I put a little bit of that E6000 on there, stick that in there. And that's what you're looking to. Can't believe the lighting's so bad. I never had this problem.
No, you're doing
Anyway,
fine. You're doing fine.
this is Patagonian rosewood and Katalox.
And on the eyepiece end, there's no lens in there. It's just an open thing. Is that right?
No, in fact, it's a good point. Glad you said that. On the eyepiece, there's a piece of glass in there or plastic. I cut it round and then I glue them in there. You have to have that because this mirror is real hard, thin glass. And if somebody dropped this and you picked it up and looked in it, it'd funnel the glass shards right in your eye.
Jesus,
So,
yeah. Wow.
Any gallery knows anything about a kaleidoscope. First thing they look at is the eyepiece. You've got to have, also it seals off the dust. And on this end, that's pretty well sealed off too. But I do use a lens. I bought lenses, 25 millimeter, which is the focal length. And I think 2 diopter or something, just a little bit of magnification. You can't make a kaleidoscope shorter than 6 inches because your eye won't focus shorter than 6 inches.
Oh my.
Anyway, that's what I do. I've made hundreds and hundreds of them. In fact, I even have plans somewhere. I'm going to plan around here. I even have plans to make them if somebody will want them. But that tells how to do it and material.
You want to put those out as a PDF, or you want to people want to buy them from you, or do you want to give them away?
No, I have them to sell. They're
Okay.
$12, $13 or something.
They can go to your website for that.
But I'm not selling. Yeah, I didn't mean to be selling these things. I just wanted to.
No, I understand. Let's see if we got questions for you. Questions for Dux.
Uh-oh.
Hello, questions?
You can also see there's a million things to be. The mirrors, if you have, let me switch cameras. If you have 3 mirrors, when you look through there, you get all triangles. You get all images of that triangle. If you have 2 mirrors and a black side, then you get a mandala. And the number of points on the mandala or a star is the distance or the angle of the 2 mirrors divided into 360. So a 60-degree angle would give you a 6-point star.
Can you make that adjustable as part of as a feature?
Yes, in fact, I have prototypes that are adjustable. The problem is when you start making the mirror smaller, you get way more images and it's way more detailed, but you have a smaller eye hole. So when you get down to about 30 points, the eye hole is so small it's hard to use.
Yeah, so you put a limiter on it so it doesn't go there.
Yeah. But that's why when I make these, this has got a big eye hole, a big triangular mirror, because people want to pick this up and look at it.
Yeah.
And it's more user friendly. Also, I make this is the base for this one. It can sit in here like that. Or I have a cradle like that. The cradle can. Some people, this is made in 3 panels. Before you put this together, like in this stage here, you just give it 1 coat of sanding sealer, take it to somebody with a laser, and they do each one of these panels. They can do like your name and a Merry Christmas or whatever else on each one of these panels. But this panel here, that panel could be engraved, and people have done this all over the place. Okay, that's what I do.
Hey, that's a wonderful show. I'm amazed there are no questions. He covered it so thoroughly, we don't need to ask questions. I mean, wow, thank you very much, Dux.
I guess, okay.
Always a treat to see you.
Good.
I'm going to go down through the hands now. Mike Peace, come to you last, Bowman, if that's okay with you.
Okay,
Mike Peace, yeah, you got the floor.
I'm trying to share. How
go.
about that? Okay, that's I call that a banana bowl. It's made out of a limb. You can see the pith goes through the center. So you can make a 6-inch bowl out of a 3-inch limb. And then the other, excuse me. No, that's going the wrong direction. Wow, I don't know where that other picture is coming from. I was going to show, well, I didn't mean to show those. Well, I made a couple of candle or a couple of salt and pepper shakers for a recent video I was going to show, and I had both pictures in the share folder, but I'm not sure why. Oh well.
You clicked a little bit before and after. You only went one.
Yeah, there were only 2 pictures in that folder. Let me go back to the folder. Wait a minute. Maybe that'll do it. How about that?
That's it.
There you go. Okay, that's a salt and pepper shaker. Some folks, it was interesting, some of the comments, some people thought this was multi-axis just because I cut this slope. And then I have one person giving me suggestions of how to drill these holes more uniformly with the drill press. I thought that was interesting because I thought they looked pretty uniform. But it's interesting, some of the comments where people over-engineer. They think in their brain how something could be done better, but they've never done it that way.
Can you make your screen larger? Can
Sure.
make that,
Yeah.
make the black
Yeah. There
rectangle
we
fill the
go.
screen?
Does
Now,
that do
that's
it?
much, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
perfectly
Good.
delightful. Thank you.
But anyway, I got this idea from this is my suggestion for the Four Ways video, but I made a set of salt and pepper shakers, a little different design based on Richard Raffin's book. And then we came back in a circle, and it's my turn to pick the topic. And the salt and pepper shaker topic was apparently resonates with a lot of people. And I finally decided it was because it was something that anybody thought they could make, and it was something that anybody could use. So it's become popular. It's been out there about a day or two.
Hey, Mike,
Tell us what the sequence is here, and it looks like they're tilted on this or multi-axis.
Yeah. Well, the chucking is done on the where the holes are drilled, so you can hollow it out, and so it's hollowed out, and it's got a little recess for a bung. Then you part it off with a flush cut saw at an angle, and then you can tune it up on a belt sander if necessary. And then I drill the holes in a pattern.
On the drill press or on the lathe?
No, I did it by hand because I thought it was easier. I just marked it with an awl very carefully where the drill bit wouldn't wander.
Just a gun drill or a egg beater?
No. This is an eighth inch drill bit. Although it's funny, Tomislav said 4 millimeters, and boy, he poured out an awful lot of salt out of his.
Well, I'm still not seeing how you're whether you're using it with a gun drill and a portable power drill.
No, just a hand drill. Yeah.
Like an egg beater hand drill?
No, just electric drill.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could do it on a drill press, but why go to the trouble?
So Mike, I'm sure you've seen Richard's version of this, and he drilled his holes, and he said, "Well, they're not perfect, but that shows that they're handmade."
Yeah. The one trick you can do while it's on the lathe, especially if you're not drilling it at a slope, maybe, is you can draw a circle while it's on the lathe, and then lay out your holes on the circle. But I don't find it necessary to get that fussy about it. You can mark them pretty carefully so they look good. So I'll stop this year.
Well, you're not gonna go back to those bowls with the decorated rims?
No, I wasn't showing those.
Thanks very much, Mike.
Mike, what do you use for a bung?
I had that in the notes and on the description. I buy them from Craft Supply because I found that they're the easiest ones. You got to have a reason to buy them to pay for the shipping. So I buy some extras. I found some on Amazon that were plastic and they were larger quantities, so they were fairly inexpensive, but you get a lot of them. But I'm not sure how well they really work. I haven't really tested any of those. But they were ones that were advertised as bungs, and some people liked them, but some people complained that plastic was hard. I find the rubber ones from Craft Supply to be perfect and a reasonable price if you got it in with free shipping or you're buying other stuff. They're about a little over $1 a piece.
Are they lab stoppers, basically?
No. Lab stoppers are more like silicone or rubber corks, and these are flat and have a little bit of a recess in them, so they'll pop in. They're designed for salt and pepper shakers.
All right, and they're from Craft Supplies, Utah.
They're from Craft Supply, but if you go on Amazon, they got 15 million sizes. Most of them tended to be smaller. I found one that had multiple sizes, and it seemed like the people that buy them were buying these things because they buy vintage or they have vintage salt and pepper shakers that are all slightly different sizes. So they have these different bungs that they can choose to replace ones that are missing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
For Mike?
Do you ever use any of those crush grind mill inserts?
Yeah, I've made a couple of pepper mills. I haven't made a salt mill because I don't have a need to grind salt. I find a shaker works just fine.
Yeah, I've made a lot of those, but up here in Canada, the price of those inserts is getting to be ridiculous.
The inserts for the bungs or the
No,
pepper
the crush grind,
pepper crush grind.
the
Yeah.
crush grinds. Yeah, Lee Valley is now selling them for over $25 a piece.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, here you can get them online for I don't know, maybe $12 or so, maybe on Amazon, but maybe about that price at Woodcraft. But every now and then Woodcraft will have them on sale at half price, so I bought an extra one for like $6, and it's just sitting there waiting for me to get inspired.
Are those all the same quality, or is there a range of quality?
There's two different styles. There's and I can't remember which one's which. I think the crush grind has a ceramic cutter or something, so it doesn't react to anything. Does real well. There's the one style you have to have you cut a recess, and of course Sorby and some other people sell a crazily expensive $50-$60 recess cutter to cut a little ring that you could cut with an Allen wrench or something. People always want to over-engineer it and sell tools, but that one I think doesn't have a hole protruding through the top because the way it's mounted. But the other mechanism has a rod that goes all the way through the top, and then it's got a nut on it. And those are the ones that I use.
Yeah, the crush grinds that I used are the shafted ones, and the other ones you're talking about are the unshafted, just goes in the bottom.
Yeah.
And the last time I ordered I got some from China, just a small order to test them out, see how well they stand up, but they were like $6 a piece. And they're ceramic insert as well. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
I made a pepper grinder and a salt grinder combination for a friend of mine, and I used those ceramic with the shaft in them, and I had to do a warranty repair on it. The aluminum shaft actually wore out. The little drive washer that drives the square aluminum, it actually machined the aluminum round, and they thought the crush grind had broken and wasn't making pepper anymore. So I took it home and found out that just put a new shaft in, it was fine.
Well,
That's the first one I've ever seen that the shaft actually wore out.
Wow. That's one thing about the ones you buy from Woodcraft is they'll have 3 different size shafts, so you'd have spares. The kit comes in like a 6, 10, and 12 or something. It's crazy to have 3 shafts in a package.
Yeah.
Well, that's for those big ball pepper mills, yeah? That's for making big ball pepper mills.
Yeah, the pepper mill. And some of them, I think it was Chefware kits gave me one time, the first one. They wanted to send me one that was like 18 or 24 inches long. And I says, no way. I have no need, and I don't know anybody has a need to have a pepper mill that big. But it turns out the market for those, if you could find somebody, is someone that is a server at a high-end restaurant. Yeah. They will pay over $100 because they'll make their tips up more than cover it pretty quick by their show.
I have both a pepper and salt mill made from the crush grind that Lee Valley sells. That's the ones that are made in Europe. I think Belgium, if I'm not mistaken. And they're both well over 20 years old. The salt I use Himalayan rock salt in, and still going strong. I epoxy the inserts into my mills, so.
So $25 is maybe not a bad price for that, actually, since it's if you're going to make $100 or $125 product.
Lee Valley does give you a discount on volume, but it's still a long ways away from what we used to pay. The price of them's gone up. I was hoping, I don't know, Dave Bell, are you listening? There was somebody a while ago that was a dealer in Ontario. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, crushgrind.ca.
Okay. And what's their price? Similar to Lee Valley?
No, it's much cheaper, and if you buy bulk, you get them even cheaper.
I might have to check them out.
Yeah, probably around, I think, $17 a mil Canadian.
Yeah, $8 a piece is a big difference.
Yeah, I'm actually going to set up and do a bulk buy for our wood turning guild. I think we're going to do like 100.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Pepper mill questions since we're looking at them. Okay. Now, whose topic was this? Mike Peace? Yeah, you.
Yeah, it blended from salt and pepper shakers into pepper mills. Yeah.
You good with it? You got any more comments?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay.
I really enjoyed your video on that, Mike. I on the first of the month, I look at all four of them faithfully now. The first of the month, I'm just anxiously waiting. I think you had it posted and I was on it about 30 minutes later. So thanks again for that. That's great.
Yeah, Richard was an hour late with his posting because he got a little bit confused on the time zone changes.
Yeah, daylight time will do that. Bert, since you're on here now and you got your hand up, you got something you want to show us today?
Yeah, okay. As you guys know, I like to make a few urns, and so the latest one is this one. This one isn't finished yet, but it looks like a spool. It's a birdmouth stave construction made out of oak. Can you guys see that?
Make the image larger on your screen.
How's that?
Go full screen.
That is full screen on mine, so I'm not sure.
I got an increment here. I can go as well.
Okay, so anyway, the construction is birdmouth joinery staved construction, 16 pieces. Diameter is about 10, a little better than 10 inches. It's about 6 inches tall. And this top piece is going to be a pin cushion. So it's hollowed out. And let's see, where's the other picture? And it's actually the fill port. So this is intended for a quilting group. There's a quilting group here where they've asked me to make some urns. One lady asked for one that looked like a sewing machine, so I had to make that. And various other ones. These people are the same age group that I'm in, and they're planning forward. They think why not have a little bit of fun with it and make something unique. So yeah, so that's what I've been making. And this one here is supposed to represent a spool. I'm going to put some thread on here, probably have a needle in the thread, and it's just a cremation urn for somebody that wants it, something unique.
Are you going to make a big in-scale needle to go with that?
I've got doll maker needles that are 6 inches long, so it'll actually fit across here in the thread, and I've made one before for another stitcher, and everybody just loved it because it's whimsical, and it puts a smile on people's faces. So that's what it's all about, is to put a smile on somebody's face.
We've talked about this before, but remind us, you use rice to measure out the volume to make sure that it'll hold the ashes for people of different sizes, don't you, or do you?
Well, I measure them when I've got pieces or HDPE plastic beads, little tiny plastic beads, and I actually fill this thing up with the plastic beads, and then I've got a calibrated box with a glass side on it, and then I dump the beads out of the urn into this calibrated box, and it tells me exactly what the volume is. And this particular one's a little over 200 cubic inches, but I just rounded it up to 200 cubic inches.
And so how does that correlate to person size?
I've never had anybody that filled one. They usually say an inch per 100 pounds, or a cubic inch per 100 pounds live weight, but I talked with a friend of mine at a funeral home, and a 200 or better. I never make them smaller than 200 inches. Sometimes they're a little bigger than 200 cubic inches, but he said I've never ever had one that was filled up. So 200 cubic inches is a good target.
Okay. And are you turning those threads, or are you using plumbing? You're turning that thread, I think.
I'm turning the thread. I've got the Chefware kits, and this I think talked about a little bit earlier before the session started. I use Chefware kits threading jig, and I made my own 8 threads per inch mandrel for it. I had to make it because I only had a 10 and a 16 when I bought the kit, and I wanted 8 and 6, so I ended up making Acme thread lead screws for the Chefware kits, and now I can do them. I like 8 threads per inch for urns and a 6 threads per inch for kids' toys. So, but I do it with a jig. I don't. Yeah, I can't do it with. I would never want to put this much effort into making the disc and everything, and then screw it up by doing hand threading. So, anyway, that's all I got to share. One of the other things I put in the chat on Saturday, I'm doing a live demo for our club, and I sent it out to the rest of the clubs in Alberta, and making mood owls, my process for making mood owls. So I put the link in the chat.
If you've got an owl there, you can show us what you're talking about.
I don't have one right handy here, but in previous
We've seen it
coffee
before,
hours
but
we were
you know, we're
talking
old
about with
guys.
Don, and we're making mood owls and with fluted eyeballs and stuff. Well, I don't flute the eyeballs, but I've got a process. I made 47 owls so far, and I've made a process, and I learned so many little idiosyncrasies that we thought it was good enough to share with the group. So Saturday morning, if you're available, 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, and I've got the link in the
There's
chat.
one on
That's it.
screen.
Pardon?
There's one on screen. I've got
Where are
one
you
for
at,
you.
Don?
Oh, I got to remove the spotlight. Let's see where we're going here. We got okay, Bert. Don. I'm going to make you. Well, okay. That's
There you
I
go.
thought we were
Yeah.
talking about that, but you know, we're old guys. We don't always remember.
That's right.
And the head is adjustable like that. It's a ball. Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
connected. Perfect use for a magnet.
Yeah, so the ones I'm making don't have fluted eyes, and they don't have the little topper on it, but it's my process for making the spheres. They're perfect spheres, and that's always been the challenge, is how to make a perfect sphere. And there's many ways to do it, and I tried several of them, and I came up. I'm using the shadow method, and it's just so easy and simple to end up with a perfect sphere. And I learned a few tricks on how to do it when you have to turn it crossways to get rid of the nibs, and that's part of the demonstration, is to basically how to make the perfect sphere quick and easy. And the owl project's perfect for that.
This Saturday on the through the Edmonton Guild site, right?
Yeah.
You've gone and muted yourself, or somebody's muted you. Everybody's muted. What happened here?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah, I put the Edmonton Woodturners Guild just recently renewed their pro license on Zoom, so we can get up to 100 people signing into the thing. And this is the first one we closed down for the summer, so we don't have regular meetings during the summer. But we thought, well, we'll do some Zoom sessions and just see what kind of interest there is in the summer, and have some fun with it. So this is the first one for this summer.
And it's on this Saturday, July the 6th, I guess.
July the 5th, I think it is.
5th. And what time?
10 o'clock in the morning.
10 in the morning, Mountain time.
Mountain time, Mountain Daylight Time.
So that would be noon Eastern Daylight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's roughly about 2 hours. And it'll probably take about an hour and a half. But and we're logging on, and it's just open forum. It's Ted's going to be the moderator, like you, John. He's going to be sitting there kind of watching the screens, and I'll be playing around on the lathe. And yeah, it'll be just an open session. Nothing's really rigid. It's just question and answers, and just have some fun with it. That's all.
So there, all y'all. If you didn't have anything to do this Saturday, there's a plan.
There you go.
Ziegler, floor to you.
All right. I haven't been turning very much lately, but I did take a piece of walnut from the club the other day and made this.
That's a very handsome piece. Now, what did you learn doing that? What was the adventure?
Well, taking the tenon off the bottom was a little tricky because I used the jam chuck, but there wasn't much to jam it up against. So I guess I cheated somewhat, and I sanded the bottom off on my belt sander.
How would that be cheating? Just exactly.
Well, it wasn't cheating, but I was hoping I could do it mostly with, just a little delicate touch on the tenon. But it just didn't feel stable enough to do that. So,
And how thin would you figure that is, and how did you gauge that while you were working?
well, the edge is about 1/8 of an inch or a little bit less. It probably gets a little bit thicker here. Maybe it's up to 3/16. I think the bottom is probably 1/4. It was fairly dry wood because it's been a while since it was sitting in my shop. So it felt pretty delicate flying around. I'm surprised that the bark stayed on as well as it did. So I didn't want to press my luck.
So you're working on the face and the back of a propeller.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Was that nerve-wracking?
No, I just took my time.
And you're using a bowl gouge, I'll bet.
Yeah, I used the bowl gouge.
Questions for Ziegler.
So that was it.
Did you cut all the way, the profile all the way on the inside or the outside first, and then, or did you work your way down incrementally on the wings?
I turned the backside first, pretty much, almost totally, really totally, and then I went, and then I left the tenon on it, and then I just turned I'll say the front of it, the top of it, and that was it. And then I reversed it to take the tenon off and make it smaller. I didn't change the diameter of the tenon. I just made it thinner.
Did you find it was flexing at all with as you were turning the inside?
Not really. If you look at it, I was trying to get a smooth transition, on the inside. It's not perfectly smooth, but I did do a fair amount of sanding to try to actually I didn't have that many tool marks on it. I was happy with that, but I did have a couple of gradations that you can see when you put it in the light. So that's one thing I learned, is that you can always make one better.
I would say that was my biggest lesson. Since I haven't been turning much lately, I got to get a couple more little branches and split them in half and try some more.
That's a nice design. That's a nice way of using those pieces if you get them before they check. Once they
and there were a few more. I think there's a bunch more at the shop. So at Kaufman. So I'm going to return the stuff from the picnic last night. Probably put a couple bucks in the kitty and take a few more home.
Good plan. Comments or questions?
So, John, just a question, John. Do you think that making, you said you were going gently at it, do you think that's helped you with your tool marks because you weren't in such a hurry?
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't turn as often as I'd like to, and so I still feel, I know Ken Vasquez was giving me a bad time about claiming that I'm a new turner, but I still feel somewhat like one because I don't turn that often. But I did learn that patience and gentle touches, I think for me, the secret. I mean, if I'm roughing something out, I might be more aggressive. But once I start getting down to the close to the final shape, I just take as gentle a touch as I can with a sharp tool.
Yeah.
I'd like to comment on that. One thing I do when I'm making a bowl or anything of that nature, when you want to get thin, you want to leave as much wood as possible closer to the chuck, so you have a good support when you're doing your outer rim. Get that down as thin as you want. You're only doing about an inch wide, maybe an inch and a half. Get it as thin as you want, and then move down, take some more wood out. More wood you have to stabilize, the better off it's going to be.
No doubt, Ron. And so I work from the outer edge, obviously, towards the center. But again, because the bark was staying on, I took as gentle a touch as I could. I guess the biggest question, not question, but I was experimenting with the speed to figure out, especially since it was propeller, what was the best speed. I don't recall what I was. I probably was around 800 or so. It's
when
not
you thin like that, you're going to take the bark you're going to want to fly off there.
Right.
Like it stays on.
Yeah, I was surprised that much stayed on.
Well, if you take it off, you can get the exposed cambium layer, and that's a very subtle effect that will go right by most people, but we wood guys, we know what we're looking at, you know. Little network of cells. So there's that.
Yep. No, but it was fun. I mean, now that I felt like I spent the last month working on stuff for the club, which is fine. You know, the lathes and picnic and stuff like that. But now I can get back into my shop and back onto the lathe.
Well, let me say the club is as one member of the club, I'm very grateful you're doing all that. It's always nice to see new executives come in and they start to do stuff that's been doing for a while.
Well, it's not just me. I mean, Jim Barr's been stepping up big time on the tools, and Doug and I were getting the lathes and you know, Ben's on the forklift. So it's a bunch of people working on it.
Did Killareski make a jam chuck again for the trophy?
He did.
What kind of jam did you use this year? Do you remember?
I think it was blackberry.
Okay, thanks very much, John.
Okay, thank you all.
Hey, Bowman.
I haven't poured epoxy recently.
Nice piece.
And this, I have a couple of views here.
Beautiful colors.
Yeah, these are the pieces in front. We have a corkscrew willow out in front of our house, our cottage, and I had to trim it some, so I kept these thinking it'd make a nice little vessel. And so let me go over to the side here, see if I can find my arrow. Sometimes I can't. But Jesus.
You're living near the water. Do you have any flooding this week or anything near it? High water?
We fortunately had very little. We had I'm going to start again. We had only a couple inches. You guys in Lancaster got, wow. You got.
Yeah, my whole floodplain at the foot of my yard was the park benches were up to the seats. Sometimes the park benches have been completely covered, but up to the seats is about 8, maybe 9 feet out of its bank, out of its normal summertime level.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. It was pretty cool. So
my house is like 500 feet this way and at least 60, 75 feet this way from where that action is. So I'm at no risk except from water coursing down the hill into the river. But it rises up down there. It rises up the day after the rain and it goes down like it's breathing, you know.
Yep.
Brown and muddy. Okay.
I want to show you guys. This is the 3 views of it. That is 3 views of it. I rotate it. You know, it's of the same one. I had stuck the curly branches in around the edge of a cup and then a plastic jug or something, and then I stuffed it. This is 3.5 by 3.5, by the way, inches. That's not millimeters, that's inches. And then I had a couple pieces of cherry. You can see right here, cherry. I stuck in because I couldn't get all the gnarly branches to lay in there correctly. But I had fun. It was good.
So did you know what color that was going to be before you put the epoxy in, or did that kind of color kind of occur in the process?
No, I selected the epoxy to go.
What colors did you use, Jim? It looks like a blend of some sort.
It was. I'm gonna say it was gold. I think it's like 2. It may have had some gray of some kind in or silver. I didn't log it. I should have logged it maybe, but I poured a sequence of about 5 different pours and I added a different color each one. And so it got to be weird. I wanted to just show one thing. This probably should have been a funnel, but it wasn't. You see the white ring in the bottom?
Yeah.
Well, me being a tight wad with epoxy, I stuck a an inch and a half piece of PVC down in the middle before I poured it, so it wouldn't waste all that epoxy in the middle. Well, somehow it got stuck in the bottom, and so I couldn't get rid of it. I think if I even show you the very bottom, you can see it through there. And it was too close to the bottom. I couldn't turn it out from the inside, or it would have been funnel. But then I'd have probably stuck something else in the middle.
So you had to turn that whole length of PVC pipe away, didn't you?
Yes, well, actually, I cheat. I use a Forstner bit to go down in, and then to get the shape, I use a negative rake circular carbide chisel. Yeah, you don't see the inside much, but I followed the exterior pattern on it. So.
Hey, Jim, I think the contrast between your epoxy and the bark on the twigs is stunning. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, John. I was particularly pleased myself. Yeah, I was just, and then do I have a look? I probably don't have a straight down on top. It even looks neat on the edge. But the challenge is, and this is the challenge with epoxy, I sealed all these things with shellac before I stuck them in there. Well, here's the story. The shellac sealed all the wood, but the skin, not the skin, the bark, left loose on the one when I was turning, and I had to reassert a piece in there and use some epoxy to hold, some CA to hold it. Yeah, I was very pleased. The cherry also added a little accent. I think those 3 cherry slivers. I was a little disappointed I couldn't turn it thin enough to get like this cherry right here exposed. So,
That's okay.
but I was delighted. It was a nice, fun piece. Yeah.
I think that's a very successful piece.
Jim,
thank you.
Jim, do you have to use a pressure pot or vacuum, or is that just poured?
I do not. I pour it, but I'm also chicken, and I seal all the bare wood I put in it, because usually your bubbles, I don't have trouble with bubbles in my epoxy. The bubbles come because they're hidden in the wood or they're caught somewhere. And that's why you might use I have never used a pressure pot.
Do I see a slide there with a rubber chucky? Could you go to that so we can see it on the lathe?
Yeah. How do you turn something like this when you can't put a knob on the bottom to grab it? Well, I turned it in halves I turned the 2 shapes in half, and then to really smooth it out nicely, I put a big rubber ducky on the one end and the drive end, and just forced from the tailstock, because I wasn't really turning, I was sanding it down and making it smooth. So yeah, that's what that is. And I didn't worry too much this time. Normally I worry a little bit about rubber chucky splitting it apart, but I figured this epoxy, it's not going to knock it apart. So it didn't. Yeah, that was on the lathe.
So are you spending as much time sanding as turning, or what's the ratio in there?
That's an interesting question, John. I don't think so. I use Odie's oil when I'm using epoxy. For me, I stop sanding at 320 if I'm lucky to get there, and Odie's oil covers it up pretty good.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, well, look, do you see scratch marks on there?
No, I like the surface. I like the surface. I like that it's not shiny.
Yeah.
I like the matte of it, and I like the colors. They come and go. That's what's attractive about it.
Yeah, I was overly pleased with this one. It was one of the luck of the draws, kind of. Yeah, that was fun.
Jim, I got a question for you. On the, you said that you sealed the wood with shellac before you put the epoxy on?
Yeah.
Did you ever consider just sealing it with epoxy, like painting a thin layer of epoxy? I'd be concerned that the shellac would not have a good bond to the wood where the epoxy wouldn't have a good intimate bond with the wood.
There's one
If you-
answer to that. I don't
What's
like
that?
to wait. I don't like to wait for the epoxy to cure.
Okay, okay.
I mean, I spray it with shellac, and in 10
Yeah.
minutes, if I have it out in the sun or outside of my shop, it's ready to do. Now, I don't know if Bruce is on here. Some guys who pour say, and I think there may be merit, don't seal it because let the epoxy get into the material and lock it in, which may be a merit, but then you may want to put it in the pressure pot because
I've done it both ways, Jim, actually, but normally I will seal that with a different epoxy that cures faster. So you can cure it. You don't have to wait 3 days or whatever like you do for the deep pours. But it depends. I think Bert's onto something. If you really want a good bond between the piece and the epoxy, really the best way to do it is to seal it. Sometimes I don't, and it's amazing how the epoxy itself will sink into that wood. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. But I've never tried the shellac piece. Shellac is a great universal binder, though. It probably does still create a good bond between them, if I had to guess. But I have not tried that.
I have never used epoxy to seal it. Always use shellac when I seal it. Occasionally I don't because I forget, and then I go, "Well, this is an experiment." So,
some of the epoxies, even in the instructions, will tell you to use an epoxy. It'll reference you to one of their other epoxies usually.
Yeah, but I have some thin stuff. It's almost like a tabletop that's intended for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, Stu Bremer does a lot of that stuff, and he puts them in his pressure pot. And your comment about the wood absorbing the epoxy, some of the wood that he's used, it's amazing how much epoxy disappears into the wood. I remember one he had about a half an inch of epoxy above the wood, and when it came out of the pressure pot 3 days later, there was a half an inch of wood sticking out of the epoxy. So whatever wood he had must have had lots of porosity because it just sucked up the epoxy right into the wood.
If you do that with what I call a cookie, an end grain blank, that'll suck it up just like that. It'll every time.
See you all next week. Thank you very much.
Take care.
As always.
Take care, guys. Yeah.
Later.
Yeah, happy 4th of July.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Happy Canada Day too. All
I got
of
my
you.
flag.
Coming up, Bastille Day.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.